My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
I am Iron Man.
Hello, and welcome back to the Sports Critic Podcast. I am your host, Eric Italiano, senior writer at BroBible.com. And today, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Cade Onder, who you can find writing about video games at comicbook.com. Cade, I think today, the year is early, but this is probably our biggest show of the year so far.
Absolutely. Until probably Ant-Man, maybe, depending on what that's
Ant-Man,
like.
or I would prefer Kangman, since he seems to be the main character in that film. But
For
today
sure.
is not a day for Marvel.
No,
Not a day for Marvel. Today is a day for people like me who consider themselves DC heads. Kay, do you, in your heart of hearts, lean one way or the other?
Well, this is my guy right here.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. So I've always leaned only for that reason, really. It's just Spider-Man's my number one fictional character ever. So like always that way. But I would say in terms of like the wider spectrum, I think I like Batman and Superman and Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, all those guys a lot more. I grew up on the Justice League cartoon, which was huge for me.
Oh, yeah.
So
which I think is leaving HBO Max today.
it's just fucking ridiculous. What are they doing over there?
So
You're just
getting
kicking
those
off some
views-
great cartoons, like amazing.
I know, and
stuff.
it's like that's the backlog stuff that keeps your service
Absolutely.
like deep. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like
It's
the best
ridiculous.
teams have a deep bench, but
Yeah.
all right, still. We're not here to dunk on deep.
It's a day
today,
of celebration,
because
Eric.
Yeah. Because I think that it is a very exciting day. James Gunn, as promised, came out with his now I'm kind of confused. He said that they've mapped out an 8 to 10 year plan.
Yeah.
I think what they've explained today is going to unfold over a much shorter time period than that.
Yeah.
So they have announced a total of 5 films and 5 TV shows. So we'll be breaking all that down. And then we will also be talking about The Last of Us Episode 3, which is being hailed as one of the best TV episodes of all time. So pack show. Let's start with James Gunn. Let's start with some main bullet points, and then we'll really dive in. As I said, he's got an 8 to 10 year plan. What this takes us through is, since he's saying Superman is kind of the start of it in 2025, I think this is like half of it, right? So
Sure.
This probably takes us through like 2028, and they've got a bunch of shit still in the works. I've actually heard there is another film that they have already developed that they didn't announce today quite yet. So keep that in the back burner. So as I said at the top, 5 films and 5 shows. Superman Legacy, which Gunn has written, and DC Studios co-CEO has said that he hopes James Gunn directs. There is Batman, the Brave and the Bold, which is going to be sort of the DCU's introduction into the Bat family. It's going to be Batman, Bruce Wayne, and Robin, Damian Wayne focused. There is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. There is Swamp Thing, and there is The Authority, which is kind of like the James Gunnian one of the one that he picked from absolute obscurity, and will probably, have a wild cast and all that stuff. And then the TV shows is an animated series, Creature Commandos, which is already written and done. They already shared artwork from it. Gunn wrote that himself. There's Paradise Lost, which is a Wonder Woman prequel that is set on Themyscira, which Peter Safran compared to Game of Thrones. There is Lanterns, which is the Green Lantern show, which they officially compared to True Detective.
Awesome.
There is, I mean, to say that's a stretch is putting it lightly.
Maybe, but it's still cool.
It's a great sales pitch, of course, but I mean, come on. There's Waller, which is still going to have previous DCEU continuity, which really just speaks to how much the Flash is going to fucking flip things on its head. The Flash, by the way, since we're talking about what's to come and that sort of stuff that's been out there, James Gunn said, quote, probably one of the best superhero films ever made, which largely tracks with like the rumors I've heard throughout the months and years. So, I mean, that's fucking hysterical.
It's crazy. And I believe he also said, even in his little video that he released, this restarts the DC universe. He said something along those lines. Yeah. And that's interesting. But yeah, I'm like, you made 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and the third one looks amazing, and you've been part of a really great franchise, and you're like, this is one of the best. Like, that's a He doesn't seem like the kind of guy to be
Who would just be
PR
saying that? Yeah, would just be like PR gun to head off screen, like say it's one of the best superhero movies you've ever seen.
Otherwise, he'd say that about like Shazam, right? Like
right,
he just like Shazam's happening.
Exactly. Which what another Zachary Levi. You know what? Fuck it. We're down this road. Zachary Levi, do you think he decided to tweet that out within hours or days of finding out that the DCU doesn't give a fuck about his character? Because just like so close, so like a week or two ago, he was like, everybody trusts James Gunn. He knows what he's doing. Blah, blah, blah. And now he's like, here's my fucking vaccine take. Which is just like in the super left field. In the like, I want to say post pandemic world, like we're moving on. Like it's not like as if that's what's hot in the street these days. You know, what's hot in the street these days is like inflation. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like Joe Biden's America. Yeah, but here's my vaccine take. So I'm wondering how soon he got the word like, hey buddy, it's you better hope that Peacock. Can we call it slip? Oh my Peacock green lights a Chuck reboot film because you're fucking out of here. Yeah, and he's Gunn said something like, look, I'm not gonna agree with everyone says, it's like he was like, it doesn't mean that we're kicking him out, but like it definitely the way he talked about Shazam even in the video is like Shazam's always just kind of been like on it in its own corner. Off on his own. Yeah. And he's like, and it's probably gonna stay that way. It's like, what the fuck? Wow. Yeah, wild. I mean, look, I have from day one have been saying, and this is the last sort of DCEU dunk. Who are these movies for? These ones specifically? No, Shazam. Who the fuck are these movies for? I don't understand. So we went on this tangent because he says that The Flash is going to reboot the DCU, but the Waller series is going to feature Viola Davis and Peacemaker. Aquaman 2 is going to be a DCU film. So they've already sort of rejiggered it a bit, which is fascinating. And then the final TV series is Booster Gold. So that's kind of the 10,000 foot view of what's to come. I have so many thoughts going. Like, this is an ADD brain overload right now. I'm just trying to parse through it. I'm thinking that Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is definitely involved in some way, shape, or form. Like, if they're keeping around Ezra Miller, not quite yet, but if they're keeping around Aquaman, which I guess was the DCU's most successful film, I would imagine they're going to keep the most acclaimed interpretation that the franchise has done. Yeah. And maybe that's the unannounced project, like something that would make sense. Right. Yeah. It's interesting because she's the like most consistent thing of like the DC universe outside of Suicide Squad, the first one being kind of rough. Everyone's like, we like her. And she's like the actress. Yeah. Like it'd be weird. The actress. Yeah. I know I made that tweet about Mia Goth, but like, I don't want her to be the DC universe Harley Quinn. I like her in the Pattinson universe, which I still don't necessarily see happening I responded to that, not trying to be a dick on I know purpose, but what I meant by that was like that to me would be a DCEU move. Yeah. Like, hey, let's introduce a third one. Like they already have two of them now, right? Yeah, they've got to kind of just stick to their pun intended guns here. Yeah. So given that there's no word that's come through the trades that she's fired, I'm leaning towards that she's involved some way, shape, or form. And Margot Robbie's like really fucking young still. She's 32. So she's got like she's not even in. I think Emma Stone is older than she is. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy shit like that. Like she is young. Yeah, Emma Stone's 34. So doesn't that break your brain a little bit? It does. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't know why, but it does. It's interesting. Like if they decide we don't have any Harley Quinn projects for this phase, like let's say this phase is 3 years, 2025 to 2028, right? You still get Margot Robbie in her like mid 30s. So like it's not like we're losing anything here. So it's a lot less time pressure-y than Ben Affleck, who in 10 years will be closer to 60. So let's start with some general thoughts. I guess that's one of mine. Another one of mine is, and I'm going to stick to what I know, stick to my guns. I guess that's the new fucking phrase of the DCU, right? Stick to your gun. As a Batman fan, as the podcast resident Batman fan, I think that this is the best outcome that you could possibly hope for. Because what they're essentially doing is they're redoing The Dark Knight in a more comic booky sense with the Matt Reeves films and letting Batman fuck off and do Batman things. Deal with gross murderers and conspiracies and all that stuff. But then they're also going to introduce a new version in the DCU, which will serve as their sort of fighting Darkseid and dealing with Superman and interacting with other characters and perhaps and having a son and shit like that. So from the perspective of a Batman fan, I cannot imagine a better announcement in the sense of they are understanding that he is their talisman character and that they could allow Matt Reeves to go off and do whatever the hell he wants to do and then still integrate a new version of the character into their franchise as a whole. And I think that that also speaks to a very a truly comic book point of view to how they are going to approach the DCU. If you look at these titles, they don't read like film titles. They read like comic book titles.
Yeah.
And I think that that is sort of going to be their ethos of, as cliched as this might sound, the MCU was about how do we make comics a functioning live action film franchise, where I think the DCU is going to be, how do we make comic books real?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love all of the Batman movies we've gotten over the last 20 years, right? But they have been like, what if Batman was real? And in the Reeves stuff, it's like a more stylized version of that. And he's doing organized crime shit, which is cool. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do see maybe something like Mr. Freeze or whatever. But he's not out there fighting fucking Clayface, right? And I want to see the wackier, not wacky, but like sci-fi-y Batman. And we have not gotten that. The closest we've gotten is Batman and Robin with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And like, it's not what I want. Like I want
Snyder, Cade?
Well, yes, okay. Like that, but like without Superman, right? With like Batman on his own.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. And we were so close to getting that possibly, but it just never happened. So I'm happy to see, especially this is a different take. It's not Batman's on his own and he's really fucking sad and he's like, oh, my girlfriend suck, and like he's like, I got a kid.
Most have been like, I don't have a fucking girlfriend, I'm alone. Shit, Alfred.
It's just like, yeah, he's like, Alfred, you don't understand, I gotta do this by myself. You're a real one, but it's all me. And now he's like, I got a kid, and that's like really cool, and we don't have to build up to it. We're just gonna start with this new angle, which I think is very fresh,
which is something that they're doing in general. They're kind of just going to be dropping us in.
Yes.
And that these superheroes have existed in this world. So I think in such a media literate audience like the one that we have now, shout out to your tweet, that is the right move, right? Because I don't need to see Martha Wayne's string of pearls or Krypton explode for the rest of my life. Ever again.
No.
Okay? Maybe my kids might. Sure. But I've seen enough, okay? Like,
yeah, it's a smart move because we can just get into it. We don't have to fucking tell the same story over and over again. We can just be like, oh, we haven't seen fucking Superman fight Brainiac, and we don't need to build Superman up. You're just like, this guy's fucking overpowered as shit, and now Brainiac's here, and they're gonna fight. And I'm like, all in on that.
All right, so why do you trust James Gunn to pull this off, or why not? And do you think the announcements lived up to the hype?
I think the announcements themselves are like, it's interesting. I don't know. Like some of these are so off the wall. I'm very excited for Swamp Thing because I know they're gonna do like an R-rated horror movie, which I think is cool as fuck.
You really think it'll be R?
He said that they will have R-rated projects, and I assume that one lends itself. Yeah. So that's cool. I like to see the variety. I was hoping to see a little more like mainstreamy type heroes that we haven't seen quite yet. Like who was it? Oh my God, completely left my brain. Whatever. Besides the point. But I want to see
Manhunter.
I think like Martian Manhunter or something like that. But like we'll get there, I'm sure. The point is here, there is a lack of understanding of how these connect right now. You know, like I see Superman. Yeah. I see Superman, Batman, and Supergirl. Makes sense. Swamp Thing, the Authority. what? Like, that's so crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I trust that they have that figured out, but it's like, James Gunn said today as well. He was like, this is better than Marvel at the start because we have it planned out. Like, we know, and it's not just here's some projects and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I trust that they understand that. And the other,
oh no, I just want to say quick, when they say connected, right? I don't think it's going to be like so much so like you have to see B to understand C and to understand D. What they said is about lanterns, that they're going to uncover some kind of mysterious secret that connects to the larger DCU. So what I think the general connection is, in the same way that Thanos was, is a central villain. Or maybe not so much a figure, but a MacGuffin, Infinity Stone. And I think that they'll do their best to try to carve their own path and not have it be such a, oh, if the villain gets their hands on this thing, you know. But, you know, considering the names here, Paradise Lost, Swamp Thing, Booster Gold, who's like a time traveler. It could be some sort of like deep-rooted Earth.
I like,
you know what I mean? Like something that's
good
either
call.
been around for a very long time and is coming back, or something that's been, you know, pulling the strings and ready to unleash. That is because I think that they said that chapter 1 is gods and monsters. Where do all of those things intersect? Earth.
Yeah,
and I think that that'll be, and I know that sounds kind of like simple-minded, but I think that is sort of where the key is. It'll be something ancient.
It's kind of what they were doing with the Snyder stuff, right? With the mother boxes all kind of being buried.
But I think it'll be less sci-fi.
I think so too.
Yeah. Because those are the most complicated plot devices I've ever heard of in my entire life. So they really got to dumb it down a bit.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that is there is no Justice League on the slate, right? Like, there's no event movie at the end of this that they've announced so far. That could be what this other unannounced project is. We don't know, but it is interesting to see them kind of taking it a little slower and not building up to the Justice League or whoever. And then the other reason I trust kind of Gunn here is the business side of Warner Brothers has changed a lot in the last year, right? We know this because of Zaslav coming in and just taking a wrecking ball to everything. And in hindsight, I think it's easy to be like, he made some really hard decisions, and it seems like they're getting things on track in a way that has not been the case for Warner Bros. in quite some time.
And that tangents right into why I kind of trust them as well. Their comments about Batgirl are kind of ice cold.
Yeah, they didn't have to say that. They're just like, look, it wasn't good. Like,
yeah. So, and I, you know, whether or not you respect the vision, there's a vision, you know, and that is, and they're just not like, hey, let's shit out Batgirl for the sake of it. And I appreciate that from where we've come from. So I think, in addition to what you and I both said, the reason that I think that I have faith in Gunn is, if you consider Marvel to be not only the defining superhero franchise of the last 20 years of all time, but the defining genre of the last 20 years, right? I think he is responsible for the best of those films. From truly at their core, not in terms of box office or special effects, but all the pieces fitting together to make an emotional narrative that thrills you mentally, physically, or not quite physically.
I get
mentally,
hard, so
mentally, spiritually, psychologically, all those things. Guardians 1, I put in the same conversation as Star Wars. So I think if there's a man who is equipped to, if he could do that with despicable raccoon and a grunting tree, right? He proved it could do it there. And then he jumped over to DC and basically proved that he could do the same thing with like a sociopathic jock. Imagine what he could do with the likes of Superman, of the story of being alone in the universe on a planet that rejects you, or sometimes they love you when they need you, but when they don't, they reject you. And sort of Gunn's ability to put himself in the perspective of the outsider, but now being able to channel that to the insiders, I think is really promising, because comic book characters are ultimately, even though they're idolized, they're outsiders, they're loners, they are alone in this world. And I think that he understands that.
Yeah, I think that he has a good head on his shoulders with knowing. One of the interesting things I read today too was he was like, here's why the Snyder stuff didn't work. It wasn't Snyder. It was that there was no like hierarchy of power here. You know, we've been saying that as a joke for a while, but like there was nothing in place to stop anyone from just coming in and steering the ship into a completely new direction. It was like you had Jeff Johns, Walter Hamada, and all these other people that were just like, I don't know, hey, Steven Spielberg, want to make this movie that's never going to come out? And then like, it just, nothing make any fucking sense. And everyone had their say in a way that should not have been the case. And he's like, I'm in charge. If you want to make a movie, you got to come to me. We'll make sure it fits in, not we'll figure it out later.
Right,
and that's
exactly
the way it needs to be.
Yeah. All right, Cade, which 2 projects do you think that you're most hyped for?
I mean, I'm going to be very basic here, but
it's kind of hard not to be, right?
Batman and Superman. But I'd also say Swamp Thing. I've said that already.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of veer off. I'm going to go Superman as well, because I think that that's a key to the whole thing. You know, since 1987 Superman 4, which starred Christopher Reeve, he's had 2 solo films. Superman, 36 years.
Insane.
It's nuts. So, of course, that's at the top of the list, right? Because Man of Steel, the last time that they made a original Superman film, Brave and the Bold, of course, I'm hyped for that, but there's tons of Batman shit in the world, so I'm going to lean away from that. I'm going to go Lanterns.
Yeah.
Green Lantern hasn't been done in a decade, which was a famously disastrous film. He is one of DC's probably top 5 characters. I think it's interesting that it's going to be a show.
Yeah.
I really hope not Jeff Johns, the other guy. Oh, Greg Berlanti. Is he still involved in this? Because that guy is prolific, but 50%, if not more, of his stuff is trash. So I really hope that he's not involved. But that said, if done well, and considering the fact that they're kind of saying they're going to be space cop detectives investigating like an ancient secret on Earth, sold. And they're like, yeah, we're not like, here is the epitome of the difference between the DCEU and the DCU. When the DCEU was planning their Green Lantern show, they picked 2 obscure lanterns to like lead the show. You know what I mean? Like, oh, let's be here. They're like, not only are you going to get Hal and Jon Stewart, but you're getting them together.
Yeah, that's sweet. Of course.
Yeah, just like stop fucking dicking around. Give them what they want. It's just insane.
You don't have to go obscure to make yourself seem fucking cool. Just be like,
you don't have to go obscure to be you. What?
Give me what I want, because you've been fucking like rejecting that for me for so goddamn long, and I don't understand why.
You don't have to be obscure to be unique. Let's do some fan casting, and then we'll move on to Cade's gaming corner. First up, Batman and Superman in the MCU. I'll start. It's finally time. I think that if they cast him now and start shooting in a few years, they could squeeze him in. Jake Gyllenhaal. I've been calling for him to be Batman since before they cast Ben Affleck. I think he's at the perfect age to have a sort of 13 or 14-year-old son, right?
Yeah.
Please, somebody, I beg of you.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I literally same boat for Batman because, like you said, I don't really know. That's someone that he's been like, as far as I know, talked to about Batman in the past. Like people have approached him or like they've had meetings or whatever. And that was something that could have happened at some point, but never really did. Now is the time. I mean, he's prime age.
40. And he's been saying yes to tons of like blockbuster shit.
Yeah.
So if somebody shows up like, hey, do you want to be Batman for 10 years? He'll be like, I'm fucking down.
Yeah, I think so too. He seems to have, I like when he does his little, not artsy, I wouldn't say that, but more prestige stuff. Mm-hmm. But he's really good in blockbustery stuff like Spider-Man and Ambulance and whatnot. He can do it all. So I would love to see him as Batman. He's got the right look and the right primal rage inside of him.
Cade, who do you have for Superman?
I don't know. I really don't know. I feel bad not being able to come up with something, but like I don't. This seems like someone who probably be in their 20s, probably, maybe very, very, very early 30s by the time they get going on this. But the one and only name that jumped out to me, and people have suggested him in the past, is that guy that's on Euphoria. What's his name? Jacob
Elordi.
Yeah, I think
he's a popular one.
he's 6'5". He's a fucking giant.
Yeah, right. That is, yeah.
That is Superman height. So I think he's got a good look. He seems like he's the problem is with Superman is he's a very big character, right? But like physically, but he's also very emotionally in tune. You can't just get someone who's a hunk and like looks like they could beat the shit out of you. You want someone with like real range and depth.
I also don't necessarily think he has to be like a behemoth 6'2" like plus
Sure.
person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think the fact that he's just super strong is enough. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Just make his body look strong, and then
Yeah.
So, all right, for me, this one I feel like is basic because it is hard to cast this character, right?
It is.
And I feel like picturing it in my mind's eye, it doesn't look quite right, but I feel like it would work on film. And my answer is Miles Teller because, you know, Whiplash, he's shown he has serious dramatic chops. And in Top Gun, he's shown that he could be sort of like the leading alpha male,
Definitely.
heart of gold type dude. He's 35. I think that's a good age for your sort of, you know, Superman franchise leading character. He's a movie star. He's a good old fashioned American. You know what I mean? It's just like he just looks and it's like Miles Teller. You couldn't come up with a more American name than that. And then my backup would be somebody who's been linked to the role of Nightwing for a while is actually Dylan O'Brien. Every time I see him pop up in something, I enjoy him. I think he's got the looks. I've seen him show off the physicality that you might need for that type of role. So if he were to gain like 20 pounds, I think he'd be solid as well.
The other one that I just saw suggested online was Logan Lerman. He played Percy Jackson.
Similar kind of dude, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the very first picture that pops up for him on Google, and he's got these like very beautiful, I think they're blue eyes, and he's got this perfect hair, and I'm like, this guy's got the look. Like,
did you see Bullet Train?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's the guy with the tattoos on his face that they find dead.
Oh yeah, I think he is. Like, yeah. That's crazy.
All right, Cade. And then the last fan casting I want to do is the Green Lanterns. Give me your Hal Jordan.
Oh my god. Who is the guy that they were like looking at for the show? Because I looked it up. The Greg Berlanti thing is dead. Apparently that was a space opera, and they're like, nah, we're not fucking with that.
All right, so for me, Hal Jordan is Harris Dickinson. He is the lead in Triangle of Sadness. He was also in The Kingsman. I think he's also going to be in that A24 wrestling film with Zac Efron and the dude from The Bear. What the hell is his name?
I don't even know what this is. I've never heard of
his
this.
name is. Yeah, he is the Iron Claw. So he's in Where the Crawdads Sing as well. I think that this guy has got the sort of like alpha male pilot sort of blonde hair look that you need for this. I think he's shown that he's got the chops for it. I mean, his last 3 films are See How They Run, Triangle of Sadness, and Where the Crawdads Sing. That's a pretty good run. And then next he's got that A24 film. And then my backup sort of more trendy pick would be Glenn Powell, also of Top Gun Maverick fame.
That's a good pick.
As for Jon Stewart, I'm going with Academy Award winner Daniel Kaluuya. I think he's fucking perfect for this role. I feel like that this is a layup. The unfortunate problem is that this is a TV show, right? So like, how do you convince an Oscar winner to come do a show? I feel like, you know, they've got to promise him appearances in films as well, but you know, otherwise that would be my guy. And then my B choice would be, you know, I'm waiting on him for a comeback. He's charismatic as hell. He's one of the saving graces of the newest Star Wars films, John Boyega.
I like that. For Jon Stewart, the guy, did you ever see Moonlight? The lead of Moonlight, Trevante Rhodes, he obviously, if you've seen Moonlight, you know, very good actor in general.
Yeah,
got the look. I would say that. Where's he been? It looks like I'm looking at his filmography. He kind of had some bombs. He did 12 Strong, that like Chris Hemsworth military movie, the Predator reboot, which sucked ass. Bird Box, and then he played Mike Tyson in a like mini series that came out on Hulu last year.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, that's not a bad run.
So he's like
he just needs the right role to come up and grab him.
And oh my god, what's Denzel's son's name? John David Washington. Obvious.
He looks just like Jon Stewart. Yeah,
obvious. So those two I think are great Jon Stewart picks.
All right, finally, to cap it off, a little bit of it. It's been a while. Kate's Game and Corner. Yeah. Look, so going into this, James Gunn had said that gaming is going to be interconnected to the DCU as well. In his video and in the trays, I didn't see much. So when you texted me today, when you said, did you hear about the gaming? I said, no. So tell me on the show live. So I hear it live for the first time. I was thinking about it so much that I did tweet today. Now it's an open world Superman game, you cowards. Like,
Yeah.
2023. What's the space one that's coming out from Rockstar or the Red Dead team? Oh, no, sorry. The
Bethesda,
Fallout team.
Starfield.
Like,
Yeah.
if we're capable of doing that, we're capable of a Superman game. Let's get it going here.
Yeah. So basically, James Gunn said like gaming is going to be a big part of this, but it's not going to be like in the early 2000s. If you read a Spider-Man movie, you got a Spider-Man game, and it was the story of the movie expanded upon, right? And they were okay at best. Some of them were Spider-Man 2 is obviously one of the best Spider-Man games, but if you look back at it, you're like, what the hell was that? But that is not the plan. Instead, the games will tie together as like expansions of the story. So the way he described it was, we're going to have a Superman movie and a Supergirl movie, and those are going to be 2 years apart. What happens in between? A crypto game is what he said. That's Superman's dog. And he's like, I don't think he means they're going to make a crypto game, but he's like, here is, a example of what we could do. But he was like, we're not doing tie-ins. It's going to be stuff that fills in the blanks. And I think that's a really good way of utilizing it. And I hope that means, like if you're going to do the Superman origin, right? Do it in a game. If you want to do it in a game. And that way you can show
I love
Krypton.
That fucking point. I love that point.
You can do all this stuff that people don't want to see in a movie and just be like, well, here it is, playable. And you get to be Jor-El on fucking Krypton as it's blowing up or whatever and doing crazy shit.
Now you're talking my language, dude.
There's a lot of ways to do it. So you can, for the longest time, we've had books or comic books that kind of serve as prequels or epilogues to movies. Just do it as a game. It'll take longer, but I think it'll pay off. Mm-hmm. So that's the idea that they're going for.
But no like hardcore news.
No. And I imagine it's because games take so long to make and they are a lot easier to just like disappear and go away. People always complain about the secrecy of gaming. And I'm like, because projects take like 6 years to come out. So like by the time they start, it's going to be like the year before Supergirl comes out when we see probably the first game that's really connected to all of this.
Yeah. Okay.
So